Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about why the way in which we are living our lives is fundamentally flawed. When I return on the Eric McNeil Be Free Show.
Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Hey guys, welcome. My name is Eric McNeil and you just discovered the Eric McNeil Be Free Show, where it's all about being financially independent, responsible for self, enjoying life and empowering others free. So this is the first video of 2021, so Happy New Year. And I just want to remind you that what the new year brings to you will largely depend on what you bring to the new year. You're going to be either your greatest asset or your biggest liability going into the new year. Alright, so I just want you to understand that. At any rate, I want to talk to you today about why we are living a flawed life. And I'm standing out here in my garden. You can see that I got the trees behind me, so I'm standing in the garden and I'm going to zoom around and you can see. So what you're seeing behind me, all of this is food. Like these are all cassava, and you can, in the West, we usually eat like potatoes. We don't eat much cassava, In South America, they eat the cassava. They call it yuca in South America. We call it yuca. And, if you go to like a South American restaurant, you might have like the yuca fries and, the smashed yuca. But that's just cassava, right? So all of that's cassava. And you can also eat the leaves. They eat the leaves as well. So that's all food. And so I can never go hungry here because I just have food all around me. You see plantain trees and banana trees. I got a coconut tree growing here. I got some tomato plants growing over here. And I got some mango. I see a pomegranate. And let's see, back over here, if we walk over here, this is all food, people. And this is what life is about. Look at here, this is contumely leaves. We eat those. I'm gonna chop some of that today and cook it. And then you got a root on there, cocoa yam. We eat that also. So as far as me going hungry, you can forget about that. Forget about it. So anyway, what I want to talk to you about is that the way in which we live is fundamentally flawed, especially when we go out and we decide we want to go and buy a house, live in a community. And the way we're doing it is flawed. And I'll tell you why. Let me back, and I'm going to put a picture up. I put a picture up and showed you that before I came to Ghana, I had built a house that was much, much larger, and I'll put that picture up. But that house sat on 9.1 acres. And when you see the picture, you will see that the house kind of sat in the middle of the acreage. And so you had about 3 or 4 acres in the front that was nothing but, grass. It was just grass. And there was an elaborate sprinkler system with timers on it to water the grass. And then in the back, there was just this huge pasture. Now, I say that to say that out of all of that acreage, and that wasn't the only property that I had owned, I had perhaps over $1 million worth of property. Let me see, maybe you can see me better if I stand here. But yeah, I had over $1 million worth of properties that before the last incident around 2008 hit in the U.S. and wiped me out clean. But out of all the properties that I had owned, and even my primary residence, which you see in the picture, I was not self-sufficient. And I want to explain this to you. Why the way in which we live is foolish. And I was living foolish too. But don't laugh, because many of you still living foolish. But I wasn't self-sufficient in that I had no food sovereignty. Right? I'm living on over 9 acres, but I wasn't growing any food. That was all grass. But I'm living on 9 acres, and I'm driving to a nearby restaurant to get food. I'm stopping by the local Chinese restaurant to get a pickup, and I have over 9 acres. Do you understand how foolish that is? But we live that life in the West, and we don't realize how foolish it is. But it's just become normal to us. Why? It's because they have minimized food. They minimized it to a point where you don't think anything of it. You think, oh, I'll just go to the store, and I can go to Publix, I can go to Kroger, I can go to Walmart grocery store and just get me some food. You know, I'm not, nobody wants to farm their own food. Nobody wants to learn how to grow their own food. You know, that's beneath me, right? That's what we think. And so we pass that on to somebody else. But let me help you understand that we have 3 basic needs. Humans have 3 basic needs. They are food, shelter, and clothing. Okay? And now when I say food, I'm also referring to water. So water and food, but I'm just saying food. So food, shelter, and clothing. Those are our 3 basic needs. Now some people, you know, they might include some other things in that, like, oh, we need electricity, we need transportation. But we can get by without those things, right? You can get by without electricity, right? You can burn some wood or something. You don't necessarily need that. And transportation, if you have all your food around you, you know, you can walk where you need to go. So, but you need food, shelter, and clothing. So out of those 3 basic needs, let's look at the clothing. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm at this age, I have enough clothes to last me for the rest of my life. Like, clothing is only expensive if you make it expensive. Clothing does not have to be an expense item, right? You get some clothing, you get a few pieces, and that clothing will last you the rest of your life. You don't have to make, we make clothing expensive because we want to be in the Louis Vuitton, we want to be in the Jordans, we want to be in the Yeezys or whatever. I don't know what y'all wear these days. I've never owned a pair of Jordans in my life. But anyway, that's off topic. But you make your clothing expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive, right? Now, so that one we can take care of. That's not a big item, you know, unless you make it a big item, you know, because you want to floss. The next one is the housing, the house. So you got your food, shelter, and clothing are your 3 basic needs. So we talked about the clothing. So the next one is our shelter. So behind me you see my current house. Now, the thing about a house or your shelter is that, yeah, it may be the most expensive item that you ever purchase, but you can really, if you purchase a well-built house, it should last you a lifetime. You don't have to go back in it, and you don't have to continue to give a lot of money. If you just purchase a well-built house and you be very meaningful and detailed in your purchase or when you're building it, then you can get your house. Then you know that, okay, I got my house out the way, and it's well built, it's going to last me for the rest of my life, and you can pretty much know that it's not going to cost you an arm and leg over and over again, right? So you know, so that's the thing about a house, and it doesn't have to be expensive, right? You don't have to have a very, very expensive house. It just needs to be shelter, right? Some basically good shelter. Now, you know, when I was in the U.S. And I had this great big house, the thing about it is, you know, we just buy or build a house. We don't think about how much energy it's going to require. We don't think about what it's being made of. We don't think about any of that. Like, but when I moved here and I had this house built, I did a lot of due diligence to make sure I was getting what I wanted. I wanted a house that used very little energy. I wanted a house with a specific purpose, not just a house that looked pretty. You know, somebody asked me about, you know, when we build in the community, are we going to build some houses that look like the Western style houses and things like that? But while we want the houses to be pretty and beautiful, first and foremost, we're looking for functionality. I want my house to be functional, and this house is functional, right? It was designed in a way where I could harvest rainwater off the roof. As big as my house was in the U.S., it would have been difficult for me to harvest the water off the roof, and even trying to do so, sometimes you have to worry about the state laws and the county laws and things like that. But this is a functional house, right? You have a lot of windows up top on the house and around the house to bring in a lot of daylight, so you don't really have to use the power to cut on lights during the day. So, you know, and it's made of dirt, so the temperature remains constant, doesn't get cold, doesn't get hot, it just remains constant. So everything about this house is functional, right? So this is functional. So anyway, that's your housing. But your housing does not need to be a bill that comes over and over. It's going to be expensive up front, yeah, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a bill that you just keep getting. Now, the last item that is a need for humans is the food. Now, that is the one that gets you. The food, because we need it every day, and many of us 3 times a day. So because we need food, you're going to always have it coming. You're going to always have that bill coming. Now, but the problem that we have, and why I say that we've been duped into living this kind of flawed lifestyle, is because as important as the food is, we relegate it to the bottom. So you go out and you start searching for a home and a community to live in, and you making sure you got some fly clothes, and then you want to go out and get that big nice house, but you never put a focus on the food. The food is the last thing that enters your mind when you go out. The food, it doesn't come up. You just believe that I just go to a restaurant, I can just go to the grocery store over here. But the problem with that is that you are allowing somebody else to have control over your food resources, right? You have no control over what you eat, and so you may be living in this beautiful house, you may have these beautiful clothes on, but you're getting sick. Why are you getting sick? Because you're having to go and eat food that you don't know who grew it, you don't know what chemicals they use, you don't know if it's GMO or not, and you don't even think about it. The only time you think about it is when you get real sick. And it hits you like that, man, we're getting sick because this food is in our, they're putting everything in our food. But why are they putting everything in your food? Because you gave them the authority to do so. You gave them the permission to do so when you chose to move in a community where you don't have any control over your food resources, right? Food is meant to come out of the garden and go onto your table. It's not meant to come out of some farm and be shipped halfway around the world to be processed, and then shipped halfway around the world and then to you, for packaging and chemicals and all that. The further that food is away from your table, the more dangerous that food is. You see that? The further the food is away from your table, the more dangerous the food is. So out of food, shelter, and clothing, food is the most important need of a human. It's the food. Your food and the water. The only thing more important than the food and the water is the oxygen, the air that you breathe. And it's only because you just come outside and breathe that you don't have to worry about that. But if you have given up your ability to control and grow your own food, then who's to say they're not going to trick you one day to give up your ability to come out and breathe? They're going to be tricking you and telling your children, oh, you got to pay for this oxygen because all the oxygen has been poisoned, so you got to go to these oxygen centers to buy you some oxygen. And your children are going to be going up there, buying an oxygen canister to carry around. And, whew, man, that's where you're going, because you've given up your ability to grow your own food. So what's next? Your oxygen. That's the only thing more important than the food and the water. So this is how ludicrous we've become, is that we go and buy this big nice house in this community and we don't ever consider food. And then you want to go and live in these big mega cities that are nothing but concrete. And the magic, not realizing the magic is the dirt. The magic is this dirt down here, right? Like I can go and right now I can go urinate and I ain't gonna poison nobody's water system. But you go in a big one of these concrete cities and you just urinate, you poison the whole water system. They'd be like, oh no, why, what happened? Why's the water poisoned? Somebody urinated on the sidewalk, right? It's just foolish. But the dirt takes care of all of that. The dirt takes care of the decay and things like that, right? It knows how to take care of that. But when you live in these mega cities with no dirt, then you have to come up with all these elaborate systems to try and prevent that from happening. So this is where you've chosen to live, so you have no say-so. When you choose to live like this, and you have to go to the grocery store and buy your food because you're not growing your own food. You didn't think enough of that. And so when I came to my senses and said that I was going to leave the U.S. and come to Africa so I have a degree of control over my own food and how I live, then I was thinking self-sufficiency at that point. See, while I was in the U.S., I really wasn't thinking self-sufficiency. I really wasn't thinking sustainability, self-sufficiency, or none of that. But when I came here, I decided that I wouldn't live in the city because, I'm like, if I want to be in the city, I just stay in the U.S. and do that. So I decided to move way outside the city, and I was very methodical about where I moved to because I wanted to be in a place where there was a lot of food around. Like, you see a lot of food right here in my garden, but even if I didn't have food here in my garden, there's food all around me. There's people growing mango, there's people growing corn, there's people growing chickens, there's people growing everything imaginable, right? And so food, I'm not concerned about. There's like most of the people in this area, they do mango farming because they say the mango trees grow very well up here, and most of those mango trees, the mangoes are exported out of the country, interesting enough, and then come back in the country in the form of juice, right? It's where they jacked up the prices because it's not being processed here. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But those are the hybrid mangoes that are larger. But the native mangoes, like there's a couple native mango trees around me, And usually, like, you know, you can just go over there and pick. Like, there's one right over here. Sometimes I go and pick mangoes from it. Like, the hybrid mangoes, those, you know, you can't just pick, because those are the ones that people are exporting. They're growing intentionally. So if you want those, you know, sometimes you just go and ask your neighbor, hey, can you bring me some mangoes? And they'll gladly bring you some, but you just don't go over there and just pick those mangoes, right? You have to ask for those. But now the native mangoes, which are the small mangoes, nobody cares about those, so you can just go and pick those. So there's a couple trees around here, like the guy, my friend Amin, who owns the charcoal factory. They got one right over there, and as I'm going down, sometimes I'll just pick the mangoes, you know, and that's the little small native mangoes. So, you know, they don't care about those, but they also have land where they're growing the large mangoes. So you know, you have to ask before you pick those. But my point is that there's food all around me. Like my neighbors who recently purchased back here, they came over a couple days ago, and they saw that I had tomatoes growing that wasn't picked yet. So wife was like, Eric, these tomatoes, you need to come pick them. And I said, you know, I just picked some the other day, so, you know, I can't eat. I said, you pick those, and you can take them. And so she picked, you know, she's like, okay, well, you have a bag. So I gave her a bag, and she picked some tomatoes, and she cut some contomeri leaves, and, you know, and she's like, hey, my dinner is going to come from your garden today. I was like, you know, have at it. And, you know, and she was telling me to go up there to their land, and pick some corn. She was like, hey, we got plenty of corn. You go and pick some of that corn up there. And so, you know, so today I'm actually, and like now, I'm going to walk up here now and pick some of this corn, right? So this is because I want to show you just how close the food source is to me. So I don't have to ever worry about going hungry, is what I'm trying to show you, because there's food all around. So we're gonna walk up here and see if we can pick some corn. Now the corn has it's actually been here for a while, so it's drying. So the thing about the corn, a lot of them, what they'll do is, you know, they want it to dry out, so they'll leave it on the stalk and let it dry out, because they usually get more money when it's dry. They can get more money from it if it's dry than them trying to pick it fresh. So it's up here drying out now. I'm gonna try to walk. I'm actually walking up the wall. So hopefully I don't fall over. So if you hear something that just go bloom, 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 you know it's me falling off the wall. Like, the wall is it's not very high yet. It's about, I don't know, about 3 feet on the area that I'm walking up. So they're gonna come back here soon and finish it, because it's going up to 6 feet. But there's a lot of bush around it, so I'm just trying to make it simple and walk up the wall. So I feel like I'm walking on a tightrope here. Perhaps if I can do this, I can join Cirque du Soleil or something. See if I can get paid. Anyway, that was successful. So I'm actually on the property. Well, I'm close. Whoa. I know this camera is not very light here. It's not very bright because of where the sun is. Alright, so let me see. Alright, so you can see, and there's plenty of corn up here. Alright. They bought some old tires here. I guess they're gonna put them around the plant so certain plants they don't want people stomping on. So anyway, so I just want to show you all of the corn. So maybe I'll get 2 or 3 pieces. Phew. Alright, so I'm gonna grab a couple pieces, then I'm gonna come back. Okay guys, so I'm back. So I've gotten my bag of corn, got a few ears of corn, about 5 or 6 ears of corn. So we're gonna head back down to the house. So I'm gonna eat some corn today, you see? So let's head back down the house, and I'll join you back there. Okay guys, so I've made it back to the house, and as you can see, let me see if I can point down here at the corn. So you can see, boom, I got like 6 ears of corn right there. Alright, I'm gonna eat me some corn today. You see that? You see? And you know, it's interesting that when I go up there, like they've got already corn and cocoa yam and other various plants, but a lot of the stuff that they're growing up there, guess where that stuff came from? It came from my land. So when they were moving in here and preparing the land, you know, I had a lot of the plants that they took up there and transplanted, and boom, I had corn seeds that they took up there, and boom, you know, so that's how it works, right? So, you know, there's some people that have you believing that there's some kind of shortage of land, there's some kind of shortage of food around the world, land and water and this and this, and it's only to create confusion so they can lead you into to buying it from them at very expensive prices, when really there's no shortage. There's no shortage of anything, people. There may be a shortage of you getting out there and working and planting the land, but if you put the seed in the ground, and it's typically going to grow. That's how it works. So there's really no shortage. Now, you become foolish when you allow these companies, and I don't need to call the name, you know them, but they create these seeds, you know, created in a laboratory. So once the seed actually bears fruit, the fruit doesn't grow any seeds. It doesn't produce any seeds. So you then have to go back to this company and you have to purchase some more seeds. Now, do you not see how dangerous that is? That you're going to introduce these type of seeds into your food supply, that I have to come to you, something that God has given all of us the ability to do, seeds that just grow, and then the fruit produces more seeds. But you're going to give a company, and they're going to come up with this reason as to why you need to buy their seeds. Oh, these seeds are resistant to insects, and these seeds are resistant to this. And you buy into that because you watching the TV, reading the mainstream media. You become fear-based, fear-minded, not realizing that this thing has been working very well for millions and millions of years. And it needs no laboratory seeds from a specific company for it to work, for you to eat. Right? It's just that you want to be in these mega cities where you have concrete everywhere and you don't have dirt to even grow things on. So I'm telling you that we've got this all backwards. We've got it all wrong. So when I started looking, and you know, and the Builder Brandon, migrating coach here, he was asking, he said, well, what is it that you're trying to do here? What is our goal? What are we trying to accomplish with this community that we're building. And I was basically like, really, I'm trying to design the type of community that I would like to live in. That, we like to be out of the city, like he doesn't like to be in the city either. And since he's been working with me, he's become more aware of the importance of food security and just having your food come from the garden going onto your table, right? So I'm like, if I'm going to be in a community environment with a lot of people, this is the type of community that I would like to live in. So I'm building the community that I couldn't find, so I'm going to build it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to build the type of community that we both can be proud of having as our home, right? We want a community that values food. So our ethos is food first. A community is not about the house. Like, I want to live in a nice house. I want to be comfortable. But I want my food to be the priority in my community, not my house. We've been taught to make the house, it about all the house. I'm going to go and look for this nice community with a great big house, nice house, this house, that house, kind of house. So it's all about the house. Well, in my type of community, my preference, then I minimize kind of the house. I relegate the house to secondary, and the food is first. Like, I need to have access to organic food, right? I don't need, the further your food gets away from you and from under your control, then the more dependent you're going to be. Like, if your food is coming from hundreds or even thousands of miles away from you, then you're going to be very dependent. And when it reaches you, you won't have any say-so over what they put in it, how it was done. But if your food is like a few steps away from you, then you see somebody spraying some chemicals on it, you say, whoa, wait a minute, buddy. You got to take that out of this community. We don't want the chemicals in our community. You got to go, right? So that's what I want. I want it to be about my food, right? And I do want to live in a comfortable house, but I want it to be about my food first. And so that's what we're building, a community where it's about food first. Organic, you have access to organic food from the farm to your table. And people have, like I had one of my friends ask me, he's like, are you guys going to be doing anything like hydroponics? So I was like, yes, that's part of, the game plan, hydroponics, aquaponics, aeroponics. So all of that is part, because there's anything, any type of way, unique way we can deliver fresh organic food, then we're going to do it. We're going to be involved in it. When I think about, when I moved here and I knew I was headed in the right direction when I moved to Ghana, West Africa, and moved way out the city, you know how I really knew that I was headed in the right direction? Like, right down the hill from me, at the bottom of the mountain, there's a family in this little village. It's not there's a, I call the village, it's like the big village is, it's called Agameda. And, it's like the big village. But I'm just talking about the little family village at the bottom here. And it consists of maybe 10 houses. Nothing special, just kind of the mud hut type houses. But here's the thing that I noticed. Their world does not revolve around what happens in the economy. Like, the economy can go to hell in a handbasket. The stock market can collapse. And everything can go haywire. They are not concerned. Their economy revolves around the acres that they have of food, the acres of food that they have growing down there. That's their economy. Like, when you go down there, you see acres of corn and cassava and mango and contomeri and all the okra and things like that growing, right? That's their economy. That's their economy. They're not concerned about what happens with the broader economy. And I said, this is it. This is it, right? And that's what that's the tagline even that Brandon uses for the community that we're building. He said, man, this is it. Yeah, this is it. What are you looking for? This is it, So that's the type of environment that we want, is to be in an environment where we control our own food source. And when we are, and the community that we're creating, it's nothing new. We're just using the same principles that people have used for generations. Like even the village down there. It's the same thing that we're doing. They control their own food supplies. Everything is about we're just upgrading it a little bit with nicer houses and, maybe a gated community and some upgrade, but it's the same principle that you controlling your food. You putting the food as the center of the community, right? Because you need to get that food every day. I don't want to go into this nice big neighborhood with this fancy house, and then I'm eating food, and the next thing I'm having to see a doctor because I'm sick, and it doesn't mean anything, you don't think about all that bad food you're eating until you get real sick, until you're somewhere in a hospital, and the doctor tells you got this disease, that disease, or whatever. Then that's when it occurs to you that, man, they've been poisoning me all my life. It's the food, people. That's why you're getting sick. You have prioritized the clothing. You have prioritized the shelter. But you have minimized the food. And you need to flip that, reverse it. The food is the priority. And the shelter and the clothing should come secondary. So, at any rate, hopefully you understand the importance of controlling your food supply. I hope you get it. I hope you get it. And that's what we're doing with this new community that we're setting out to create. Our sustainable community is about food first, giving you access to organic food fresh from the food forest. Okay? So, anyway, if you like what we're talking about, go ahead. Hit that subscribe button. Like, share, comment. Let me know how you think about the whole food situation. Is that something that's important to you? Is it not? You just go in the grocery store and whatever they have, you buy it or whatever. You can also find me at facebook.com/Eric McNeil is free. And as always, hoorah ahuru. Now be free.